Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Anatad Podcast. Today is Friday, August 7th for the U.S., Saturday, August 8th for everybody else, and this is episode number 46. Welcome to the Anatad Podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube live, thank you very much. We've had some technical difficulties on Facebook, so we're not on there today, but hopefully we'll be on there next week. Sorry about that. And of course, I'm Nimmer, and I'm located in Fremont, California, in the Bay Area. Nice and sunny, about 80 degrees, 25, 26 Celsius. Very, very nice weather out. And I also have some people with me today. Hello.
Good day to you, Nimmer. Marco here from, of course, Melbourne, Australia. Great to be on the show again for another week. Number 46, I think you said it was this week. So
Oh, you came back from Russia this week. That's good.
I did, mate. Yes, I flew back and amazingly managed to get back into the country. Don't know how that happened. But and here I can assure you it is not 26 degrees. It's probably about 10. So, and raining. Lovely rain.
We don't have rain here. I wish we had rain here. Hasn't rained here since probably March. Maybe.
Yeah, wow. Sheesh. Okay, that's going back a way. It's probably back to
Yes.
about episode 30.
Yes. Hello. We also have another guest over there. I think he's moving around his food or something. Hello, Warren.
Hey guys, nice to be back with you guys. I was moving things around and Marco, if it's 10 degrees out there, how did it feel when you were crossing that River Volga?
Oh my lord! Now you're bringing back nasty memories here, Warren. No, we
Thank
only
you
worry
guys.
about the River Yarra here, the Yarra River, which is our main river. And I tell
Okay.
you what, you do not want to go for a swim in that thing.
A bunch of
Definitely
sharks
not.
and good stuff.
Oh, nothing
Put
to
that
do
in
with
a pot.
sharks. It's just a bit not the most cleanest of reservoirs. Let's
So
put
when
it
I
that way.
lived in Duluth, Minnesota, I did the polar plunge. There it was
Ooh.
in the middle of January, and it was about negative 20, 25 degrees outside Celsius, probably about 10 below here in the States. Yep, they had to cut a hole in the ice, and I
Ah.
did jump in. I
Ice
got out.
fishing, my brother. Ice fishing.
Oh no, I was in the water. I wasn't doing no ice fishing
I
on
was going
top
to
of the
say
ice.
they
I
might
was
have
in
been
the water.
fishing. They might have been fishing for Nimmer. There was nothing to do with
Yes.
ice fishing going there.
Sometimes you use your bare hands to catch fish if you can.
And strangely enough, actually, the water inside the water was probably a bit warmer than the outside temperature,
Oy.
so it
I
actually felt
believe it.
kind of good to be in the water. But by the
Yeah,
time you got
yeah.
out of the water,
You're
all
frozen.
that
You're
adrenaline is
cold.
rushing through your
Yeah.
system, so you actually think you're hot, even though you're frozen.
Well, you're
Yeah.
correct. It's all to do with the adrenaline. Once that sort of disappears, then you're damn cold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time I
Uh,
stopped feeling adrenaline, I couldn't feel my feet. I
I
was
can
like,
imagine.
yeah, I couldn't feel them.
Yeah, I'm not sure
So
I want to
is
do it.
this an advert for the fact that you shouldn't step on ice, or you should be a bit more careful?
Could
A
be.
little bit more
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today what we're going to do is we have a number of things that we're going to discuss in the news. We have a new release of Android 11 with some bug fixes, and we also have, of course, Pixel 4a announcement to discuss. That phone was released, and some of us will tell you about how we feel about that device, and it may or may not be good. We'll find out. We have some other news to discuss. We also have some. We'll talk a little bit about. I guess a little bit about a comparison. One thing was we sent out an email to the Anatad list, and people said they really liked the app reviews and the comparisons and that kind of thing. And some people said they wanted some iOS to Android app reviews, or as Warren says, Fruitville or Fruitvale.
Good veil.
You got to
So
be on that Fruitvale, Nimmer.
So I'm going to be on the Fruitvale, and so we'll do a little bit of a comparison, and we'll do some basic apps. But as we do, in future episodes, probably we'll do even more, and we'll just try to do comparisons each week or something like that. Of whatever app we're demonstrating, just to show the stuff. And then we have a email from Gary, so we'll address that. And yep, so we've got a pretty jam-packed episode. And let's see if we have anybody listening so far. We have no chats. Hopefully, we
No, I
get a
just
few
looked
more
at
from
that
last
before.
time.
Now, hopefully, StreamYard, I don't know what was going on last week, but we didn't receive a single thing. But I did actually, for your interest and for the listeners' point of view, to know that we weren't ignoring you. We actually had about 3 or 4 threads going on Facebook, but for some reason, none of that was coming through. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Hopefully
what
it's
was going
working
on
this
with
week.
that. But we're not on Facebook this week. We do have one listener, it seems, on YouTube. So thank you very much if you are listening. Definitely, truly appreciate it. Oh man, I don't even know if I sent out the link to the Anatad list.
I don't think you did.
Marco, do you want to send that link
I'll
out
pop
real
that.
quick here?
I'll pop
Yeah,
that through
do
right now.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's pop that link out.
Yeah.
It's been a long
See,
week,
listeners?
and
It has been a long week. It's been an
Yeah.
interesting week, and you can tell that poor old Nimmer is struggling.
yeah, something like that.
Do you want me to send you out some sort of drink or something, my friend?
Yes, please. Yes.
A little
That'd
vodka
be
from
lovely.
that
Bit of
side of the
vodka,
world would
a
work.
nice piece
yeah.
of steak.
Yes. Oh, yes.
yum.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
some
Now we're
kangaroo
talking.
meat or something crazy like
yeah.
that.
Well, as I started last week's episode, I want to again thank Buzzsprout this week because we did get a couple more emails with some fixes that they added, including some keyboard shortcuts that they added to the editor. So thank you so much, Buzzsprout. They also added some buttons in the tab order, so now we can tab to those, and added some headings, which is really helpful. It has made editing the podcast much more efficient,
Absolutely.
I would say. And so I definitely want to thank Buzzsprout. If anybody's listening from Buzzsprout, or if you're considering a podcast host, Buzzsprout is the one that we've started using a few weeks ago. And when we started, there were definite issues, but it seems that a lot of that stuff has been addressed, and they've taken on board what we've advised them of. And it seems that at this point, I would say Buzzsprout is very accessible. So thank you very, very much, Buzzsprout team. We still want that HTML editor. That would be nice. But in the absence of an HTML editor, I think the changes that they have made are quite good. So thank you very,
Oh,
very
compared
much.
to when we started, it's
Yeah.
100 times better. Absolutely. And even if
Yes.
we had an explicit episode, we couldn't put that down as explicit. So they've even fixed
Actually,
that
I
up,
think
which is
all
quite
the
cool.
episodes showed us explicit. I'm not sure. Or
Oh, well, that's
I
good.
don't remember. I think
Well,
there's no way
that
to
just
check
covers
that
our
box.
asses, doesn't it? It covers our asses, that does.
Oh
well,
my.
now I'm going to have to check that explicit.
Yeah, check
Thank you.
that box, baby. Check that box.
Oh my.
Oh, look, if you can't laugh, what else can you do? I suppose you
That's
can
right.
cry. And not check that explicit box, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, what's new in the news? Now, we've got a lot of articles, or we've got a lot of news items this week, and I think one of my favorite news items this week was this idea that Google was messing about with people's voice settings.
Interesting. Yes.
Marco said that his voice setting was turned on,
Well,
and he got an
exactly.
email that said it was on, and I got an email that said it was off. It seems
And
like
mine
it was,
says it was off.
Yeah, well, mine says it was on for some reason, and then it said, if you would like to change this, you need to do this, which is perfectly fine. But why would you assume... Well, I don't know. I don't know why would you be playing with those settings?
That's
and
kinda
they
odd
turned
because
ours off, and they said if you want to turn it on, well, you have to go in there explicitly agree to the terms to turn it on.
Yes.
And I never bothered, so
Me neither. Well, the whole idea is that Google says, hey, we want you to be in control because, given what happened back, was that in Belgium or some European country that, it was discovered that, humans were, trying to do, voice samples and try to improve things, whatever, all those fine language they use. And so Google decided, well, we're just going to turn it off and let the people choose to turn it on or not. So in other words, this helps with your, all the voice matches and all that stuff. And you can go turn it on or even go there and delete all that you have ever said before, even though you can choose to say, okay, in a month, every month, delete my voice matches or in 3 months, or you leave it at the default, Google will purge it for you in, was that like 18 months? I don't remember. Something along that line.
Well,
But
I have to say, though, Warren, I can't say that the voice matching is working out as well as it used to, because I seem to find lately that Google doesn't seem to do what Google should do. Especially when I'm asking it to play something or do something, it does the pretty much
I've
the
actually
exact opposite.
experienced that too. It seems to be less
Yeah.
sensitive. Now, they do have some sensitivity settings in the assistant to where you can choose which speaker does a good job at listening, but I have found that it's just not as good as it used to be, and I don't.
It's
Maybe
becoming
it's just
more
my own
serialized,
imagination.
I'd call
but
it.
It's,
I'd call
yeah.
it. I call it more serialized, if people understand that.
Although actually, I
don't
think
know,
Siri has gotten a lot of improvement lately.
well,
So
Siri's definitely improved. So I think, Google better be careful. That
Yeah.
Google Assistant's just dropping back in the field in my rating. But anyway.
I don't know. It's still sitting on the hill, if you ask me.
Oh,
but,
you keep sitting
frankly,
on that hill. I've started walking down it slowly over the last few
Listen
weeks.
to that boy.
That trudge has started going. Dum, dum, dum.
no, I
Yeah.
definitely have experienced that as well.
So you can go in there, and I'll send that to you, Nimmer. So you put that in the show notes. You can go in there.
Oh, thanks very
And-
much, Warren.
and,
Excellent.
and turn that on, or go check what you have on your dashboard and listen to those voices or recordings that you had done in the past, and have a good laugh. You can even download those things if you want, or just clear them out. So I like that control.
So we've got emails from William. He says, "Hi, hello, William." We
William.
also got a Tabitha comment. Says, "Got the Wi-Fi set up just in time. Thank you, Tabitha, for coming on and listening to us." We
Shout out to
definitely
you, my
appreciate
dear
you.
Tab.
And someone named Anatad Podcast posted, "Hello, is anyone out there?" So, I just felt like reading that on there. But
I kind of have an idea
that might have been a
who
Marco. Who knows?
who that sneaky
I
fox
was
may
waiting
be.
to see if he.
Doggone you, Marco.
Look, you have to have fun on this podcast, Nimmer. It's not
Yes.
always about tech. It
that
has
is
to be
true.
fun.
I love it. That's
Tech
good.
and blindness. See, that's what it's all about.
Well, the Android 11 beta,
Oh, yes.
beta, however you'd like to say it.
No, it's
Beta,
beta.
beta,
No, beta.
beta,
Thank you.
beta.
Yeah.
Biter?
Okay. Anyway, the Android 11 beta 3 has been released. I believe it's 3.
I believe you're correct, yeah.
And there are quite a number of enhancements, fixes in terms of accessibility, which is good.
Yay.
So, as an example, things like it didn't used to work as well, such as being able to hold down the record button in a Messages app, for example, has been
Oh,
addressed.
look, I enjoyed that didn't used to work for you, Nimmer, because it was so much fun hearing you go, send, cancel, send, cancel.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, damn it. That's just going to... Oh, well, that used to make my week. Anyway.
So
anyway,
that has
go
been
on.
addressed, and there's been a number of other fixes as well. The audio, of course, used to be some issues with audio.
Oh,
Right,
tell me
uh,
about it.
The audio was sounding very tinny on a Pixel 4. If you had a Pixel 4, Pixel 3,
It was
it
horrible.
never seemed to really affect Pixel 3a. At least it didn't affect mine. I don't know. Maybe it did, but certainly
I
those
don't
other
remember.
devices.
I think mine was fine too. Remember, my 3A was fine with,
Yeah, but
but-
some other devices were sounding rather tinny.
especially
And
the
so
4.
it seemed like they turned off the amplifier or something. I don't know. Anyway, that seems to have been fixed, so that's rather
Listen-
good.
That's the boom.
Yeah. It certainly seems to be a bit more responsive, which is good. Could be my own imagination. The multi-finger gestures seem to be working more reliably. You can trigger those on into the developer settings. If you don't have those on, under TalkBack, if you go to TalkBack and you go to developer settings, you can turn those on. Now,
I
one
say
thing,
mine is not working good. I even had to do a factory reset of the device this morning, and
Ooh, wow. Okay.
shame on it. The 4-finger thing. It works, but after a few tries, and to me, that's not very good. That's not bueno.
Yeah, I don't seem to have any issues, but that's the one thing I wanted to say is if you are having issues or some gestures are weird or something else, number one, you can do two things. Number one, you can erase all the cache and the app data for Android Accessibility Suite. Now, you may lose speech, so you might have to reboot your phone at that point, but uh, you can do that. You can also, I would strongly advise, just to do a complete wipe, and it seems crazy them saying that, but actually it does tend to fix quite a number of issues
It does.
that you might possibly be having just because you're not running a update on top of some old stuff, some on top of
And I
something
know that
else.
that's a
And
big pain for people, but
it
seriously,
is.
like you are going to kill a lot of issues, and you've probably already had these issues before you update to a beta, if you're going to do it,
Right.
that is. But it's going to kill all of those off. I mean, yes, it's painful, and yes, it's annoying, but it should be what you should do anyway, especially if you're going from one OS to another. It
Right.
makes sense.
And of course, we should note this is a beta, not the final version yet. TalkBack is definitely not the final version. The Android's not the final version. So no doubt that if there are issues that you're experiencing, those possible that those could be fixed. Just be sure to report those in app feedback, and I'm sure that there's been a lot of fixes already. Remember, Warren, when we first got the
Oh
preview, it
my.
was definitely
Oh,
not
don't
working as
even go
well.
there, Nimmer. That was crazy. It was just atrocious. And now, I mean,
Yeah.
I can long press on an app from the app drawer and drag it to the home screen, and I could, drag it, from one home screen to another and drop it on top of another icon or into another folder, whatever. So in other words, it works just like your good old Android 10.
Yes.
So it's back to, and our shortcuts are back. Um, I just want to show that real quick, Nima, because all this. So here I am on home page 2, home screen 2. See, if I long press on it, before, if I long press on it, the choice I had was remove, and you would be stuck. So, but now I got app info, I got pause app, and I can just close out of that, or I could say, hey, bring bring my actions, and I could do where I could move. So it or remove it. So I say move item, just like in the good old days. Ah, it's working. So I I could long press and move it. Okay, here
Pro shot. That sounds ominous.
is an app. So
I would hope it's an app.
see,
I was thinking
create.
something else.
So so it works just the way it used to work. So if you're familiar with Android 10, we have that familiar feel, and I think that's one of those things that I'm excited about this new update. Those guys did a lot of work, and a lot of the issues have been fixed. So there's no reason not to jump on it. This is the final beta, and like Nima said, all the messaging apps, WhatsApp or Telegram or Skype, and they work just the way that they used to be. So
Well, to
Yeah.
be
nice
perfectly
thing.
fair, though, you'd hope by beta 3 that it was going to be pretty close to.
Folder
Yeah.
badges also are. This
Oh,
is kind of a new thing now. They're
that's
announcing
right.
the count of items in a folder. So if you have an app in that folder that has a different number of notifications, it will read that.
So here's what Nima is talking about. If you have, so all this while, visually, if you have a folder, whether you have 10 apps in a folder, visually it will show 4. Um, but now we didn't know that as blind people, it will just tell you folder and doesn't tell you how many icons you have. Now we have that. So it says 4 or more items. What happens is that if you have 4 or less, it will tell you that exact number of icons that are in there. So, but if you have 5 or more, it will say 4 or more. And I was asking my daughter about it yesterday. I said, now tell me, if you look at my folder, would you know that there are more than 4 items in there besides the 4 icons that it shows? She says no. So I think as blind people, we actually have it better because it lets us know that this folder actually contains more than 4 items. Now, if I only have 2 items in there or 3 items in the folder, like in my communications folder,
Folder. Cloud storage. 4 more items.
okay, communication.
Folder. Communication. 3 items.
So there's 3 items in there. So like I said, if you have 4 or less, it will tell you exactly the number of items you have in there. But if you have more than 4, then it will tell you have more than 4. So that lets you know you have more than 4 apps in that particular folder. So it's a new thing that they improved, and I think kudos to the boys and gals.
Okay, we have a few more comments before we move on to talking about a bit more news here. We've got Gary says hi. Hi, Gary. Austin Pinto says, hey, the party started. I'm late. Yeah, you're late.
Yeah,
Welcome to the
well,
club.
we noticed. Don't you worry.
Hopefully you brought your popcorn.
You owe me that Indian beer, Austin.
Oh, I'm not a fan of Indian beer, but
You
anyway.
can keep
I
your
have
Indian
no
beer.
clue what it is.
Yeah.
You know, the mango drink, I love that stuff
Kind of-
when
I'm
I
good.
go to
I'm
I
not a
reckon that'd
fan.
be like
Indian.
I reckon that'd be like curried hops.
I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Indian beers, but
Oh, no. You got to try that mango drink. It's beautiful.
I'm not a fan. Austin
Yeah,
here
mango.
says, I don't know what to get, OnePlus or Pixel 4a. Well, that is a good
Oh.
transition to talking about the Pixel
Yeah.
4a, which was just released.
Thank you, Austin.
It has a processor that is the 730.
Oh
G.
wow.
730G.
Call it G or not G, it's still the 730. That's okay.
It's a G for gamer.
G for graphics,
can't-
actually.
I'm just kidding.
Anyway, so you got the 730. You've got 6 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage. You've got a screen about 5.8 inch, something like that. Screen. You've got a headphone jack. You've got stereo speakers, and you've got a
Wow.
price of $350. Now, I'm not very impressed, and I know Warren went out and got the device. He pre-ordered it.
I'm a duckhead. I got it.
He
I
did
cannot believe that,
pre-order
Warren. I'm astounded with your purchase here.
And my biggest issue why I'm not very impressed, there's a number of reasons, but my biggest issue that I'm not very impressed has to do with the modem. And the modem is a very kind of a weak modem. It's definitely a mid-range modem. You don't get 5G, which is unfortunate because now 5G is being built out. It's rather a shame. But even more than that, the LTE part of this modem is not very good. It maxes out at 3 carrier aggregation, which is probably good for T-Mobile because that's all they have.
Yeah.
Not so good for any other carrier though. AT&T is up to 5 pretty soon, probably up to 7. Verizon is 4 or 5. And what that means is how many bands that it's kind of cobbling together to give you faster data, more reliable data speeds. So you're going to get slower speeds on that LTE modem. You may not care about that, but if you want something that's going to actually be a little bit future-proof, it is something worth paying attention to, I think.
Yeah, but
There's
Nima,
something else
how are
that
you going to get a
disappoints-
future proof with something running
There's something
at
else that
730?
there's something else that majorly disappoints me with this phone, is that essentially you're going to get not even, around about 14 months of OS updates. And I think that's dreadful. I'm sorry.
No, you're going to get 3 years of OS updates.
No, you're not.
Why?
You are not going to get 3 years of OS updates. This is where
No?
the misconception is. You're definitely not going to get 3 years of OS updates.
I think
can
Google
assure
has
you.
actually said on that phone it's 2 years, but here's
2
what
years.
2 years means. 2 years means Android 11 is about to come out. Congratulations,
one.
that's one
There you
major
go.
update. Android 12 is going to come out. Congratulations, that's 2 major
There's a 2.
updates.
And that is it.
And then what happens to Android 13? If you're lucky, maybe you'll
I
get
think we're
Android
gonna.
13, but I don't
think we'll
even think
get
you're going to
Android
get Android
13.
13.
I wouldn't be betting
I
on it.
doubt it. I wouldn't bet on
Yeah.
it. But even if you do get Android 13, that's only 2 years from now, which if you're going to spend any kind of money on a phone, so this phone that I have right here in my hands, this is a iPhone SE2, is going to no doubt get 5 years of updates.
Yeah, we know
Easily.
that. We know that. Don't rub it in.
It's not about rubbing it in. It's about, thinking about whether or not a phone has value. And to me, if I'm going to spend $350, which is a good chunk of change for a lot of people,
Yeah, it's
now,
a good moolah.
it's not a little bit of money for a lot of people. And if you're going to spend, any kind of amount on a phone like that, then you kind of want that phone to last. And this is the problem with most Android flagships, but I would have hoped that a Google flagship would have done a little bit better. Not a flagship, rather, a mid-range
mid-range.
phone.
Yeah.
But I would have hoped that a Google phone would have done better. But it seems that it's not quite up to that standard. Between that and the issues with not having 5G, not having even a good LTE modem, I'm not very impressed. And the worst part about it is, I think, is the timing, because in 3 months there's going to be a new phone that's going to be released. Now it is
less than 3 months, bro.
$150
Yeah.
more, but it's going to have the 5G. It's going to have the better LTE modem.
Yeah, I can't understand why. Well, I understand that Google are obviously making a hell of a profit out of this because, but to a lot of people, the camera definitely probably got the best camera out of, let's say, the
Well, they do.
OnePlus
They've got a good camera.
and the SE2. The camera, give it to them. The camera is excellent from all reports. But everything else that you've mentioned, Emma, the LTE modem, the processor, I'm sorry, but even for a mid-range, a 730 processor is pretty poor. That's just not great.
It was a bad choice, and frankly,
That's
like
not
you
great.
said, I don't know why this thing wasn't even put out there in May anyway, and then close to the release.
Well, they should have put this out in May, and they should have
Yeah.
put the 5G one out in September, October. That's what they should have done, in my view.
I don't know what what.
Well,
they were
personally,
thinking.
if I was them, I wouldn't have released this one.
And I wouldn't have even
the
released
5G
this one. Correct. I would have just done the 5G. If
Exactly.
it was
But
me
I
too.
think they already had, produced the stuff before, though. Those things were probably ready in March or whatever, even February, somewhere, right there.
And look, I'm sure that they're
it's just
making a
crazy.
heck of a lot of money out of it. From what early reports is that they're doing quite well with
Yeah,
sales.
it's
But
selling well.
I think for those of us that are interested, and me, I'm kind of similar to you, Nimmer, in the sense that I do care about modem speeds. I do care about what's actually in the phone. I think in terms of bang for your buck, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not
So,
highly impressed.
probably one could just wait and, see the 5G one. But I think Google, for pricing it at $500, I think that's a little bit overpriced.
Well, there's not really any difference. Well, there's a lot of. There's actually some
Well,
differences that I
there
don't
is.
like, but there's not a big difference between the 3A and the 4A.
4A, no.
You do get a little bit better processor, but the speaker's about the same. Actually, you get the squeeze feature with the 3A that you don't get
Yeah,
with
you
the
don't
4A.
get the
You don't
squeeze
have
That's been
feature either.
removed.
Yeah, that's true.
You still get a good camera with the 3A. If you can manage to get a 3A for $300, $200, $250, I would jump on that before I jump on a 4. I don't find the value in the 4A. I just don't find it. I can't see it.
No, well, it's true though. I mean, let's just put it as it is.
Because the 3A doesn't have a good modem either, but at least you're not spending $350 on something else. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
Well, the other thing also, and I think the initial question was, let's compare the 4A and the OnePlus Nord, and I'm going to get on my high horse here and say that I honestly,
Don't
and I
fall.
don't care,
Don't fall, Marco.
I won't fall. Don't you worry about that, Warren. But I honestly think out of all the manufacturers this year, including Samsung, including anyone else that I've read about this year, Huawei, everyone else, there's really, in my opinion, this year is probably one of the most disappointing years for mid-range phones. I really don't see that there's a great phone. A lot of people are going to say, oh yeah, but the OnePlus Nord's got so much gig and this and that. Well, again, it depends on whether you want to trust OnePlus. So for me,
not only that, but having
I don't
12
want
gigs doesn't actually
No,
It
it
do-
doesn't improve anything for us as talkback users, as for
No.
blind, vision impaired people. It really makes no difference. So
No, and if you look
I
at
don't
the
know. I'm really
specs,
disappointed. I'm
Boys,
disappointed.
it has quad cameras.
Yeah,
Remember?
well,
well,
Whoop-de-doo.
it can have as many
you
cameras
know, if you
as it
look at
like.
the
I can't
ratings
see
that
them.
people have put out there on those quad cameras, they don't seem to be too impressed. So
Out of the
No,
three phones,
no.
if you go and have a look at every single article, just about every article will have the Google 4A on top, followed by the SC2 with the camera, and the Nord just makes up the rear. So
Well, the
it doesn't matter how
OnePlus
many
has never
cameras.
been great when it comes to cameras, and I'm sorry, but it's just a stark reality of the matter. They've always been lagging in that department. And like I've always argued, I don't believe that, a multiplicity of camera is what makes it. I mean, geez, a lot of those cameras usually. There was this nice review, this guy who is great in photography and, said all that, whatever is just to make it look good on paper is, that multiple camera, that's diddle squat.
well, you
I
do
mean,
get different perspectives. And so there are photographers that do like to have different perspectives, so like a wide angle or a telephoto or something like that. So there are things that you can do with multiple camera perspectives, but they have to be decent cameras, and the OnePlus doesn't
yeah,
make a
sometimes
decent
a
camera.
2 MP here, a 5 MP
It's
there.
just not very
I
good.
like what Fruitvale, we may not like, Fruitvale, but, Fruitvale would give you the same quality of cameras on the back. I don't see why you have a 12 MP here and a 5 MP there. That's so idiotic, if you ask me. I don't like that.
Well, the
Make them
MPs
uniform.
don't make. I mean, there's Samsungs have 108 megapixel, and the pixels are still better. So
Yeah.
megapixels don't mean a better camera at all.
No, well, it's basically how the software interacts. It's how a lot of the work that they put into that sort of thing. So it doesn't really matter how many pixels you got.
Thomas Chan says, "Hi guys, it's a Saturday morning. Hello, Thomas. No, thank you, Austin. Please don't send a tankard of it. I don't want it. Not a fan. of
Thomas,
Indian beer.
Thomas, my man. Be nice to Austin.
Oh no. Thomas didn't. Austin said
No,
he
no,
was
that
going to
was
send
Austin.
a tankard.
Oh, that was Austin. Okay.
The biggest here's another quick little thing that I want to address too is the Google has killed off the Pixel 4.
Oh yeah. Got tears in
so,
my eyes. Just 9 months short.
Less than a year before you've even released a new phone or anything, less than a year since your phone has been out, you just say, "Oh, no more. Have a nice day. Sorry." I don't like that.
No, that's really bad.
I don't
That
like
tells you there was something wrong. Absolutely wrong. The little
Yeah.
puny battery for one thing on that Pixel 4. That's why it's hard to even find a Pixel 4 XL because they were the only ones that were selling. The Pixel 4 probably sitting somewhere in a closet somewhere there. Let's just take them out, dump them off, and let people pick them off the street or something crazy like that. You agree with me, guys?
Yeah, no, look, it's quite concerning at the moment. I think, especially Google, and I'm really quite disappointed. I think is the word for it. I think Google is just too many releases of phones at the moment. Seriously, you've got the 4, then you've got the 4A, then you've got that 5G version. All within around about, what, 6 months, 8 months.
And the regular
of each other.
5. Don't
And the
mention
regular
regular
5
5.
that's
That.
coming out too, which apparently, well, that's another story, Nimmer, about that regular 5. But
Yes. Yep.
that's looking like, for me anyway, is going to be somewhat disappointing, especially the build, more so the build than anything else. If you maybe go into that, Nimmer, just real quick. All the rumors that are out there at the moment anyway.
Rumorville. Then, the Google foldable. I don't know. I can't
Yeah.
believe people are already starting to talk about the Pixel 6, the foldable phone. And
Well, it
So,
does seem like we're
I don't
going
know.
backwards to plastic phones, including Samsung has just released
Yeah.
their Note 20. So that Samsung Unpacked event, they've released some new earbuds. They've released the Samsung Note 20, their Z Flip, the 20 Ultra or whatever,
And the watch, of course.
and the watch. Yep, the Galaxy Watch. Now the Note 20, interestingly enough, has a plastic back
yeah,
for $1,000.
Yeah, that's a big minus
that's
for me.
crazy, though. That's
You get a
absolutely
plastic
crazy.
back for $1,000,
Yeah.
and it seems to be missing, a number of things here and there, missing this, missing that, and really the idea is that they want people to pay an extra 300 some odd dollars to get the Ultra. I think that's crazy.
Yep.
If
Yeah,
you
I
ask
agree.
me, I think we've already topped out, in the phone design, and so all these manufacturers are just playing gimmicks, see what
I'm
works,
happy
and
with a plastic back. Let's not be. Let's not. I'm very happy with a plastic back. My problem is spending $1,000 to get a plastic back, and that back isn't even removable, so I can't even take out the
no,
the removable battery.
no, you
Yeah.
can't.
I
And
have
the
no
other
problem
thing,
with the. I think
yeah,
the older phones with the plastic backs were great. You could pop out the battery and the SIM, and everything was so easy. And
yeah, but
hey,
let's be
I would love
honest.
to go
Let's
back to
be
those
honest, though,
days.
Nima. Yeah, I'd love to go back to those days too. But if the reality is that's not happening. So if I'm paying $1,000 or more for a phone, I don't want it to have a plastic back.
Right.
Then I want it to feel like a premium. If I'm buying a premium, I buy premium
Oh,
phones. I always
boys.
have. Well, I have. I've always bought premium phones. I want it to feel like a premium phone. I'm not paying $1,000 for a plastic back.
I agree.
That's
I know.
craziness.
I don't know. I guess probably though they're going to chug it up to us saying, hey, we're charging that price because of the 5G capability of the phone.
No,
And,
there's
and besides
5G
that,
phones for a
frankly,
lot
I
less
don't
than
know
that.
why you
Yeah.
would want to charge $1,000 for such a phone. You're taking us back to 2012 or 2013, somewhere in there, and asking us to pay $1,000. I think that's just outrageous.
It doesn't even. I mean, 5G is fine, but it's not. Yeah, there's 5G phones a lot less, and this phone doesn't even have the ultra wideband
No.
sharing and stuff that the Note 20 Ultra has. So
And this
Yeah.
is what I was saying earlier, although I was sort of featuring it on the mid-range market. I think the Note this year is probably, in my view anyway, the most disappointing Note that's come out for a long time. I just really
yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
The one cool
terrible.
thing is it does have a matte back, so I'm hoping that this will carry down to other Samsung phones because the glossy backs on Samsung's phones, frankly, are terrible, and I like to
Yeah.
see matte backs
Yeah.
on phones. So yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Well, that's
But
one of the main reasons I've got a thin case on mine because, the last thing you want to do is just for that thing to flip out of your hand.
well, and all the fingerprints and
And all
everything
the
else, and
fingerprints.
Yeah.
smudges.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the matte back. So, and Pixel actually did this last year, although they only did it with some colors for some stupid reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting year of, or interesting
Yeah.
few months anyway, coming up in phones.
Yeah.
As I said earlier to boys, I'm thoroughly frustrated with what's coming out at the moment. I really don't
It's
see anything
okay.
great.
It'll pass, and maybe we'll just look forward to next year, see what the new year brings.
Well, that's the other thing. Next year's processors, they're going to be able to aggregate low band, mid band, and high band, the flagships anyway, the LTE and 5G modems. So if you're getting a modem from this year, plus there's going to have C band and some other bands that we don't have in the States yet. So if you're buying a phone from this year, it's already out of date, frankly.
Well, it is.
You're not going to be able to take advantage of the latest network tech next year. It's already out of date.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah, if it was me and I was looking to buy a phone, I would probably hold off a year unless you have no other
most
choice.
especially if you're buying the flagship phone that's $800, $900. Unless of course you have a lot of that moolah flying around, then do that. But or else, I think I'll just be patient, get a little poke around phone, and next year get something that's decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it's about 8:40. I think maybe we should move on from the news, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
Let's
we'll
move on.
mention one other quick thing before we move on, and it might be of interest. I know that a lot of people use messaging apps that listen to our podcast, but WhatsApp is trying to be secure, Nima.
Oh yes.
Yes, apparently they're going to introduce encryption in the phase of, well, kind of similar to what Signal does, in that they will have messages that self-destruct. The only difference is, from what we read at this point in time, though, unlike Signal, where you can make them disappear straight away or whenever you want, for whatever reason, WhatsApp is going to hold on to them for 7 days. So I'm not sure how that works.
Oh, just in
terms
case
of it
you want
disappearing.
it, Marco. You know,
Just in case the
sometimes.
government wants to access them, you know.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, the other thing they're doing, and we'll of course put the article in, is that they are going to have encryption apparently with their cloud service, which is well overdue, if you ask me. I cannot believe that they haven't got that.
Yeah, no, I
That's
agree.
just terrible. I mean, yeah, that is not good. And there was one other feature, Nimmo, which has just gone out of my head, but it is in the article. What was the other feature?
We'll
There
just
was three
have to
things they're
post
introducing
the
anyway.
URL to the article.
Yeah, so apparently they're bringing this in. Of course, they haven't announced when, because being owned by Facebook, they just have no date for these things. So it could be in a year, could be
Yeah.
whenever. Who knows? Who knows? But it's apparently going to happen.
Yeah.
So we shall see. So WhatsApp Messenger undergoing some updates.
Okay, so now we'll talk a little bit about comparing. Well, I can't speak today. iPhone, Fruitvale, whatever, and Android.
Never.
And I think Marco, you're gonna be my guinea pig here.
I'll be
I
your
mean,
guinea
you're gonna be
pig.
the
Why not?
Android compare.
We'll do the Android compare. Do you want to kick it off with what app shall we start with?
Well, I'm gonna just start out with something basic like changing speech rate here.
Well, just remember that I'm not using TalkBack. So Warren, you might want to take this on because most of our listeners would be TalkBack users.
So with and with TalkBack, one of the things that you could actually do is set up an action, and this changes a little bit in Android 11, but you could set up an action to navigate to, like for example, speech rate, and then use up and down to change the speech rate. Otherwise, by default, you kind of have to go into the text-to-speech settings and all that, and the speech rates tend to be different. So speech rates are a little bit muddled in Android land. They tend to be a little bit muddled just because TalkBack has its own speech rate, and then the Google text-to-speech kind of has its own speech rate. So it's
It's all over the place.
some of the other TTS engines have the ability to set their own speech rates. It's kind of muddled.
Yeah.
On iOS, you've got one speech rate, unless you're in a self-voicing app for some reason, but you have one speech rate. No. Hey. Stupid thing locks in 2 seconds. Even though I set the lock out to be, 5 minutes or something, it tends to lock after a minute. I don't understand why. If anybody's using an iPhone, you want to tell me why, please do.
Get you to turn that up if you can as well, Nima. It's very quiet.
Yep, I will. So I'm using the rotor, and I find
Oh,
speech
that
rate.
later.
50%. FaceTime. One missed FaceTime call.
This is as loud as I can get it.
Calendar. Friday, August 07.
So the speakers on this thing, the stereo speakers, are not as loud as a Pixel, that's for sure, or most any other Android phone. But they are pretty decent for what they are. They're just not as loud.
Photos.
Okay. So now, let's talk a little bit about
Doc. Phone.
the phone app. And I know I did this a while back, but I think we'll go a little bit more in depth this time. And just for anybody who's listening to this, if you're listening to this, then I'm just going to go into some of these basic apps just to show you what is possible. In future episodes, we'll go into other apps. So let's go into the phone app, and as you notice, it says one new item. I don't even have a SIM card in here, but that's okay.
Phone number. Text field.
So I'm dropped into the keypad, and I can dial a phone number.
2885544.
And as I touch the keypad and I lift, it dials the number. Now, I think by default, the iPhone is set to double tap and touch and double tap,
Double
or something
touch.
like
Yeah,
that.
touch and double tap. Yeah.
I turn that thing off. I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
But, if you want that on, then that's
A lot of people like
you
that.
do, I guess. But I turn that
Yeah,
off. I
I
think
turn
it's
that
such a
off
waste
too.
of time.
335599988. Call button.
And then there's a call button at the bottom. Now, the one issue that I have with iPhones is that the icons are so small
8, 9, 5,
that to me they're a lot harder to find than, for example, on an Android phone. And I don't know, it could just be me, it could just be what I'm used to, but the icons themselves, the touch targets on the icons are pretty small, and I think this might be why a lot of iOS users tend to swipe.
Yeah.
Well, and and probably maybe, especially with the SE that you have, there's not that much in the way of
No, no,
real
no. This
estate.
is with all iPhones. This isn't.
It's the same on any iPhone because I do have the use of a 10s Max, and the icons are quite small.
Yeah, the icons are small,
Yeah.
even on the biggest phones. Actually, for some reason, no matter which phone you have, on the bottom on the home screen, there's only 4 icons on the launcher.
So if we go into the phone app on the
favorites,
Android, so
Slow
I
down that
don't
German, Marco.
it's slow.
Okay.
Now, automatically I'm put in the Recents tab. Now, I suspect what the Google phone app is doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nemo, it's probably just remembering which tab you were in last time.
Yep.
I don't believe it just automatically does that. I think it just remembers where you were last time, so that's why we're in Recents. Now, if I go into
Contacts. Recent selected. Favorites. More options button. Start voice search button. Search contacts in places text box. Keypad button.
keypad,
Text box selected.
of course we get the numbers there.
5 JKL. 8 TUV. 58 9 WX.
For me, it's a pleasant experience. Like, the icons are large, easy,
Yeah.
hold down, let go, no mucking around, and you really don't get it wrong because the icons are a decent size. So in comparison, for me, and I think you would agree, just much more pleasant to type with on the native phone app. And this is the Google app I've got on my Samsung, which you can use.
And the
on
biggest
Samsung.
issue that I find with this, like the keypad, for example, isn't necessarily the numbers. It's actually, once I dial the numbers, where's that call button? Where's the delete button?
0.
Those icons are rather small to me.
Dial button.
See, I can get to the dial button easily. It's right below the 0.
Dial button.
You
Yeah.
hardly ever miss it. It's just there. Like, you can't. I mean, unless you're completely out, you really can't miss it.
And on this one, it's right below the 0, but it's kind of farther down, I think. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just a rather small icon.
Dial button. 0.
See, this one's right below the 0. It's literally not even, half a centimeter.
Now, along the bottom here, we've got favorites, recent, contacts, keypad, and voicemail. Now, one thing I like about Samsung phones is that every carrier, doesn't matter which one, the visual voicemail is always there.
Yes.
On
I
the
like that.
Pixel
Yeah.
devices, voicemail only shows up depending on which carrier you're with. If you're with AT&T, it will not. If you're with some other MVNOs, it will not. On some, it will. If you're with Google Fi or Verizon, it will. So it just depends on which carrier you're with. And then other Android phones don't even have visual voicemail. Sometimes you have to get a carrier-specific app. So voicemail on Android is not as pleasant as it is on iOS. It's just not.
No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Now let's take another app, for example, Nimmer. I'm sure this will be another app that's fairly common to most people, the Messages app.
Yeah.
So
Messages.
I'm going to go into Messages. Now I'm using Google Messages, which is probably the most common one that you can get on Android. We'll go into a conversation.
Message from 0413140647. You missed a call from 0413140647. Phone call 13140647. You missed a call from 0413.
Now, the one thing I don't like about this app,
And I had to call myself. It's Bradley. Can you call me please? 041314. Message content attachment button. Message content button.
message content between each message. You don't get that with the native Samsung one. You do get it with the Google Messages app.
Oh, strange. I don't get that.
I get this, and I've got to work. I'm still trying to work out how to get rid of it. I have no
I
idea
wonder
why
if
this
it's
is
a,
happening.
well, that might be a commentary thing.
What does it say? Message content?
Scanning face.
Where's that at?
Device unlocked. Pixel launcher. Flight.
Let me look at mine.
Message content button.
Folder.
Message
Folder
content between each
WhatsApp.
message, individual
That's a
message.
commentary
Let me see.
And I think that could be a commentary thing, but
I
it's very
think it's,
irritating. So if
just
anybody
look at-
knows how to turn that off, that'd be great.
Look at mine.
Message from 207-424-24. Message from 254-3107. Message from 20-2000.
Now you've got to go into the message. So go into,
Oh, open the
pick one.
message itself.
open it up.
Okay.
Ah, okay.
Let's
Yes,
see.
there are two swipes between each message.
2 swipes between each message. Now, I find that really quite annoying.
So, like,
Yep.
okay, my message,
Message from Micro Combo, July 15th, 2:40 p.m.
So, yeah, I don't think it's a commentary thing. I think it's just generic.
Like where request for this needed for Vietnam, July 16th.
No, but it does say content, whereas TalkBack doesn't say content, but
No.
it does. But the two swipes are still there. There are two
The two
swipes
swipes are
between
still-
each
So,
message.
every message that you go through, you've got to swipe twice, which is painful.
Yeah.
Very annoying. Now, you definitely do not get that with an iOS device, that's for sure.
FaceTime. 1 missed messages. 4
No, so if I go into the messages app,
compose. Sir, dictate. +1. Rook Jost. Rook Josted. Your Rook. Your Rook. Your Rook. Your Rook.
so definitely there's no double swiping.
No.
Camera. Apps. This message. Text.
But
The one
other
thing
good
is
thing
that I
the
don't like
iOS
is there's a lot of stuff at the bottom on an iOS device, though, and I don't know that I like that. Like you get camera, apps.
Message.
There's a tiny little edit box,
Message. Text message. Text field.
and then sometimes it'll be an attach. Sometimes it doesn't show up. There's a send.
Delete.
I don't know. And then even finding the send button, as I said, the target's
did I hear
rather small.
did I hear a delete there?
Hi. Go. Delete. Go. Delete. Cap G. Cap A. Cap A. I.
Oh, so you're typing.
So I'm typing, and then just being able to find the send button.
Vertical scroll bar. Set higher. Send. Button.
So it's there. I can find it, but it's just a rather small little target. It's just not. I don't know.
Higher. Prediction. Send.
And then, of course, on the keyboard, there's no number row. So I
Yes,
have to
that
go
has
into
always been one of my biggest dislikes ever.
So I have to
Very
go into the
annoying.
numbers just to access the number row.
Letters. Index 2.
And then when I'm done typing a number, I have to go back into letters. It's rather annoying. On an Android phone, you can definitely have a keyboard row right up at the top. But even things like punctuation, a lot of the punctuation is just not
Return space.
But hang on, Nimmer, before
like
you go
accessing the period.
into punctuation. What if one were using the Google keyboard on Fruitvale? Couldn't they?
Third-party keyboards
No.
on iOS don't tend to be all that accessible, frankly.
They're no good, unfortunately.
They don't tend to work very well. So, and that includes the Google keyboard, and there are some settings missing from that keyboard than the Android one. So it's not very good. So on the bottom here, I don't even have a period. So if I'm typing a message and I want a period,
BBC. Cal.
oops, I have the swipe thing enabled.
Delete space. Space. Hi.
So if I want to type in a period, you can set it. There's a setting to have it 2 spaces will enter a period. Otherwise,
Numbers.
you have to go into the numbers,
Comma. Space. Emoji. Period.
find the period, and then you've got a period. I mean, it's just like the basic things. I don't know. It's kind of
But I have,
The other
I
thing,
have a
have they
question.
fixed up the issue with the
Marco,
delete key on the iOS side of things? Have they? Do you still have to double tap the delete key to delete stuff, or can you just
Delete space.
tap it now?
no. You can just tap it.
Okay, so they've sorted that out. Thank God.
Yep.
Here's
used to
my
be
question. Because on Android, let's say I'm using Gboard. Now, if I long press
But you
that,
do have to double tap the enter key.
The enter key, they haven't sorted that out. No. Yeah. So that's bizarre.
Yeah.
okay,
Anyway, what is it, Warren?
Yeah.
like I was saying, with Android on the Gboard, if I long press that period, I could find all of my punctuations in there, moving my finger around as long as I have it held down. Is that not possible on Fruitvale?
Well, it's not about whether it's possible or not. The problem is when you have to go to the number row first
Slash. Period.
just to find the period.
Okay.
Ellipsis.
And yes, you can do that. You can long press and get certain punctuation like the ellipsis,
Alternative
for example.
characters hidden.
and they're
Okay.
called alternative characters, same as on Android. But you have to first find
Quote delete.
the punctuation is not
Quotation mark.
It's not
On
there
the home
on the
screen.
main keyboard. Okay.
on the
I
on
guess
the
it's
main
about
keyboard.
it's about being productive in my view, like
Yes.
making things quick and productive. So having to do a couple of extra taps to get to what you want, I don't know,
No
it's a
circle.
little bit
3
more
unread.
painful.
Messages. Heading. Dictate.
Now in the messaging app there is a search and there is a dictate similar to the Android app,
Yep.
and the compose is at the far top right. It's just a tiny icon. I don't know. I don't like it.
More button. Messages. More. Compose. Button.
Kind of buried right on the top corner, right below the status bar, right below the battery.
Compose. Button.
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I guess
guess
if you
maybe
get
because
used
we're
to
not
it, it's
used to
fine.
it.
But the
Yeah.
icons just tend to be rather small.
I think it's also because iPhone users are used to swiping more so than we are.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't
think
matter.
so
If you
too.
use an Android, it's more about touch and go, whereas an iPhone's more about swipe and rotor, in my
Yeah.
view.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is
Now-
fine. There's nothing wrong with either method. But that's where people do struggle if they go from one platform to another because they're used to doing it
The
on
other
whatever
way.
platform they're on. Yeah.
Yes, makes sense.
So that's where the hard part is.
Now we will cover more apps in the future. I don't know if there's another app that you think we want to cover at this point.
I want to talk a little bit about, you touched a little while ago on granularities, and I think the reason why I want to talk a little bit about this, I think sometimes some people are not quite used to how to do those navigations, most especially if, say, you're reading an article and you want to you read by headings or, things like that. So I know we're running out of time, so
Device unlocked.
I'm,
Device launcher.
I'm gonna open up.
Folder. Visit. Four more items. Eat like smoke.
Sorry if my thing is too loud, guys. Is it too loud?
No, it's
Eat like
fine.
smoke. Review. The paper.
So
Slide sheet of text. Graphic. Slide sheet of text. Graphic. Slide sheet of text.
okay, so I wanna.
Tab share. Button. The paper.
I'm gonna.
Share.
I'm
Share.
gonna open this thing in
Article reader. Save the
So-
article reader. Row 3. The grid. Article reader.
something like an article reader,
Article reader. Web
or
view.
on a web page. So
Mar 18. 2020.
so
Headings.
see so so if I swipe down, so I got headings.
Links. Controls. Characters. Words. Lines. Default.
So I'm back to top.
Headings.
So now if I swipe right,
How we store devices. Heading 1.
how we score devices. If I want to read that heading, then I need to swipe to
Default.
default and now swipe right.
If you're interested in how we gather this data and assess it, we explain our methodology.
And
more
by
on
the
the
way,
page.
this
Here's
is
the conclusion.
changing to some extent in Android 11, and actually I think it's getting better because this way is frankly not as efficient as what iOS does.
No.
And the fact is that it's in iOS the rotor is kind of. I'm not a fan of the rotor, but when you find headings or any granularity that you're at, for example, you can just swipe down and to get to whatever the heading that you want to read, and then as soon as you reach whatever that is, you can just start swiping right or do a read from next. In Android, it's an extra step, right? So you have to first put it on the granularity, and then you have to find the thing, and then you have
Find
to take
what
it
you
off
want.
the granularity, and
Yeah.
then you can actually start reading. Just an
Yeah,
And
extra
that's the
step.
same for whichever screen reader you use. It's pretty much the same. You have to put it on to whatever granularity.
but we
then
need to
find it,
explain
turn it
that
off. Yeah.
because some people don't know how to do that, and so they are not able to read, and they are left frustrated. But so until those other improvements come along, that's how you go about it. So I
Yeah, and so in Android 11, you're going to be able to find the granularity that you want. For example, heading with using those three-finger gestures, you're going to be able to find that granularity, and then a swipe up and down, just similar to iOS. So swipe up and down will move you by that granularity, but then as soon as you reach that, you can swipe right, and you'll be at the default granularity. I mean, you can just start swiping again, or do read from next, or whatever it is that you'd like to do. And so in that way, I think Android 11 will be a lot more at home for some iOS users, and I think just a lot more efficient in general.
yeah. So if
Because
you
if you're
have,
navigating by granularity a lot, it's just, especially if you're doing controls, for example, it's just a lot to go through. Headings, links, controls. Okay, now I found the right thing. Okay, now I go back to default, and then you headings, links, controls, and then you got to go
yeah,
controls.
it can be
links,
a little
headings,
bit tedious.
default.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it's a lot of swiping that you've got to do up or down to go to whatever you want. Whereas,
Right.
obviously, you just go to your headings, find the heading you want, then swipe right and off you go.
Yeah,
It
but
just
to be
knows
honest though,
that's what you want to do.
if all I'm going to read is by headings, like right now I'm on defaults, I just go swipe down one more time,
Headings.
and I'm on that heading.
Google Pixel 3/4.
Right.
10.0. Heading
And
1.
then if I want to read that heading,
Default.
I swipe up defaults, read it.
It shouldn't come
Yeah,
as a
that's
surprise.
how you
Google
do it now,
Flash
but
Google
what we're
Never takes
saying
data
is
exposed.
that-
Google does release security updates for its devices.
Yeah, what we're saying
Yeah.
is though that obviously the screen reader is going to improve to a point where
Yeah,
it
no,
figures
yeah,
out
I understand
that's
that.
what you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you
The-
turn on
so
the
it should-
three-finger gestures, it's not going to work that way anymore, Warren.
No.
So,
Yeah, yeah, and that's going to be better with the new gestures that we're having. But I'm saying, for those that don't have, because a lot of people out there are not going to have that feature. So it's important that they know how to read that stuff for the time being.
yeah.
Yeah.
We've got William here. He writes Swift key works well on iOS. That's good. I'm glad. I've just found in my experience of trying out, for example, I tried out probably about 10 different Dvorak keyboards, and I could not find a single one that worked well. The Google keyboard, I tried it out. It doesn't even have Dvorak, and it doesn't
Yeah,
work well
Swift
either.
keys worked well on iOS for a long time. I used to use that back in the day.
So
as
I'm
well.
glad that SwiftKey works, but it's probably
no,
one of the
yeah.
only one that does that. To be honest, there's just not very many. I don't know why. It's just that external keyboards on iOS. See, in Android, external keyboards tend to work. There are some that occasionally don't, but they tend to work. In iOS, it's kind of different. On iOS, most of them don't. Occasionally, you'll run into a good one, but most people probably just use the default. And Apple does, frankly, they do give you a lot of typing options, so it's very customizable. You can do single tap, double tap. You can use the swipe. You can do handwriting. You can do braille, screen input. Frankly, gives you quite a lot of options that are not accessible to Android users. So,
Especially the swipe and type. That's excellent. That's definitely something that needs to come across to the Android side. I think that would be cool.
BVIP Tech. Hello, Australia. iOS user looking to learn more about the Android accessibility. Welcome. Hoping that this is a good start. What I'm hoping that we can do from now on is, each week we'll do an app or two, and any app that we do, we'll just try to, if we're going to do a comparison of an app on iOS, we'll try to find the equivalent app on, if we're going to do an app comparison on Android, we'll try to find the equivalent app on iOS and demonstrate that, just to show some differences between those and how things work. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions. I've seen Android fanboys, make misconceptions about how iOS works and that iOS doesn't do this and doesn't do that. And I've seen a lot of it from the other side. iOS users seem to think that Android doesn't do this and doesn't do that. And I think both have some limitations, and hopefully we'll learn about those together. So I'm glad
Well,
that
the
you're
good
here.
thing is, Nima, that you've got a SE2. I've got
Yep.
an iPad if ever necessary, but at least we've both got iOS devices that we can compare against. And it's not about, yes, we are Android
And I have
fanboys,
my
obviously.
old i7 Plus or whatever, that big phone, it's even running the new beta.
But it's not
on it.
about the fact that we're Android fanboys, which we are obviously. But the reality is that we want to make sure that people have the information to find out what is accessible from both sides of the pond, and we want to try and give it in a fairly reasonable and even keel. I think is the most important thing, because there are definite benefits from iOS. There's definite benefits from Android. I'll give you one, for example, and I know that this has been discussed on the group this week, is the Braille side of it. There's absolutely no doubt that if you're a Braille user, iOS is better. It's as simple as that, really.
Yes.
And there's other things that are of benefit on the Android side. Like we talked about just then, I think the phone app is definitely better on Android by a long shot.
I think if we explore the settings, maybe
settings,
we'll do that next
yeah.
week, but we'll find very quickly that the settings on Android are quite a bit better laid out
Yep.
than they are on iOS.
Absolutely.
Or the notification shade.
Oh yeah, we'll do that next week. That's
There are a
great.
lot of better things about Android in terms of that than. In any case, let us look at listener emails before we wrap up. We've got a couple of emails.
Did you bring that one in that I sent via Telegram? And I'm sorry, I can bring it up whilst
did
you're
not.
reading that other one first.
Yeah, if
so
you can
you
do
grab
that.
that one and I'll...
Yeah. Got an email here from Gary.
Hey Gary, shout out to you, my man. Go on drinking that little vodka of yours and send me some, bro.
Okay. Hello, enjoying the Anatad Podcast episode. Here, probably an advanced user question, but I will ask it anyways. If you can explain the features of odd in to for Samsung devices, if you can explain that, and when you use each feature on the odd in to tool. I'm guessing you mean Odin.
Yeah,
That's my guess.
the
I'm not
Odin
sure, but
tool.
I'm
Yeah,
guessing that's what you mean. And
exactly.
if that's what you mean, um, it's very self-explanatory. Once you download Odin, everything is very well labeled out. So there's buttons for each item that you. So once you download an image, for example, a Samsung image, you're going to extract that image, and there's going to be a number of files. It's going to be a build image, a BL, CTC, or something like that. There's different letters. And what you're going to do is, when you open up the Odin tool, you're going to hit the button that that is for each of those different items that you want, and it's going to open up a file upload, and you're going to upload that file that that has that name. And then there's a start button. You're going to hit the start button. Now there are some other options. For example, if you wanted to do a wipe of the device, which is probably a good idea. I believe that one is automatically checked. There's a few other things, but you don't really have to mess around too much with those. So that's kind of what you do with that. You do again want to make sure that you have the USB driver installed in the device in download mode, and the device that has that you're able to do that with. And you just want to make sure that you know how to revert back in case things don't work out. Although Odin is pretty good that if it can't install it, it won't even start to install it. It's pretty good with that. So yeah. Anyway, hopefully that helps with the Odin tool. It's very self-explanatory. Just open it up and have a play. Push the buttons and upload the files, and then hit start, and it should work just fine. So hopefully that's what you meant, Gary. And
I think that's what he
let's
meant.
see here. Do we have any other comments?
Well, before you
VP
go into
Tech,
those,
he said he just ordered an S10 Plus. I'm
that's a good
going to
buy, I
make a
think.
comparison video
Oh yeah,
once I get it. That's really good.
That's
I'm
actually a pretty good buy still, even at this point in time, I think.
Yeah,
Not a
I
bad
think
buy.
so, and I'm hopefully if you can send that to us, we'll put it on the air. I think that's a really good
that would
comparison.
be
Or
nice.
if you want to
Yeah,
come on and talk with us at some point, let us know. We'll definitely get you on here. He was suggested to come on here from an FB page. I'm very glad that you did.
Yeah,
Tabitha says, "Yay app demos. I'm glad that you're enjoying them." William says, "The only thing keeping me on iOS is Braille support."
well, that's a fair point.
Yep, that is
yeah.
definitely a
No,
fair
if you
point.
depend on that,
I'm just catching up on the comments because I saw we had a bunch of them. VPI Tech also says, or BVIP Tech, sorry.
I was going to say VPI tech. That's
Yeah.
different.
well, it's also beautiful. Though.
He
I like
says,
the VPI.
is there a way to change the triple finger tap for Zoom? Yeah, unfortunately, there's not really a way to adjust the Zoom shortcuts. You're kind of stuck with whatever the Zoom shortcuts are. It's rather unfortunate, but I think speaking with a lot of Zoom users, they tend to like the way that Zoom works on Android, and so I think that it's just a matter of getting adjusted to those keyboard shortcuts, or not keyboard shortcuts, those gestures.
The
But
gestures. Yeah.
yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, there's not really a way to do that. So I haven't even looked to see if there's a way to do it on iOS. Maybe there is, but I haven't looked to see if there
I
is.
believe there is, but I can't
Yeah.
remember now. It's been too long
I haven't
since
looked.
I.
VoiceOver is definitely very customizable in terms of gestures, but I haven't seen those kinds of settings in Zoom. But I haven't looked in a while, so who knows? So again, let us
Now
know.
I'm going to cut in here with a message from Ben Young. So I'll let good old Google TTS read this one out.
Google Assistant.
Oop, no, I won't.
Button. Administrator. Hello, ladies and gents. I have some questions about Android accessibility. ability. Any Android user is able to answer. With TalkBack on, is there a way to make it keep reading down the screen from where you click, not just from top of page? With Zoom, is there a way to change the gesture? I want to use something other than triple one finger tappers when playing games that require tapping. It's annoying. Possibly more to follow. Thanks. Sent at 13:56.
Now, did you boys hear that?
Explain
I
that
don't
to
know.
me.
That was
Yeah.
a lot of content, but I think the Zoom question we kind of answered.
We have, yeah.
There's
that's been
another
covered.
question about reading from down the page, and yes, there
So
is a
from
read
top to
from
down,
next.
yeah, that's right.
There's a read from top and a read from
Read
next.
from next
So when
item,
you're
yeah.
using TalkBack, for example, this is where that global context menu comes in handy, and so you can adjust. You can change that gesture if you don't like it. But if you do a swipe down and right in TalkBack, then as long as you're focused on where you want to start reading from, you can hit read from next and it will read from the next spot, wherever you're at. If you do read from top, it will start at the very top and start reading all the way down to the bottom, or until it gets stuck somewhere. But it'll read from the very top all the way down to the bottom. Frankly, read from top and read from next need a little bit of work in TalkBack, but they do work for the most part. So as I said, you can do that. If you're using Voice Assistant, I'm not sure what screen reader you're actually using, or commentary.
I
Those
think
similar
he
features do exist.
said that he was using TalkBack, so I think that was primarily the only one he's interested in. I
Okay.
know that for commentary to read next is right and up, so they're all kind of similar, but at least the commentary one works, whereas the TalkBack one does get stuck sometimes.
And we've talked
Very
back,
annoying.
like Nima was saying though, you could go in and change. So if you don't want to go to that, global context menu to find a read from next item or read from top, you could assign a gesture, reassign one of those gestures in the gestures list to, hey, when I swipe down, either I swipe down with two fingers, read from top, or if I swipe down with two fingers, read from next item, or whichever way you want to use it, you could always change that so you don't have
Well,
to.
you won't be able to do that unless you have Android 11. You cannot do a swipe down with two fingers, otherwise that will open up the notification bar or do scrolling. But if you have Android 11, you can assign that particular gesture. You can reassign it anyway, but before Android 11, what you're going to have to do is use something like an L gesture or a swipe up down up, swipe left right, up right, any kind of a one finger gesture. Anything with two fingers, two or more, you will not be able to do that in Android 10. So
And it
Android
needs to
11.
have two movements.
yes, it needs to
Yeah,
have two
it needs to
movements.
have two
Well, it
movements.
doesn't necessarily need to have two movements, although why you'd want to do it with one movement,
Well,
I don't really know. But you could do a swipe down if you want, I guess.
Well, I guess you could,
you
but
could
then you
change
assign
the
that
granularity to
or-
something else.
yeah.
Or swipe left, right, whatever, something like that. But so the whole idea is that if something works better for you, if a certain kind of a movement is better for you, try using that and see if that works better for you. That's the whole idea of
Yep.
Android and its
Yep.
customization.
Blind and visually impaired tech is what it stands for. Thank you. I appreciate it. And that's me. I guess the person.
Oh,
we were
yes, I
just
do
reading,
know
that's
blind
him.
and visually impaired tech. Thank you also to them for allowing me to post on their group as well. I'm actually in their group, and yeah, good to have you on, actually. I popped up a post or two on their group, so yeah, good to have them here.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm glad that you're here. And yeah, like I say, if you want to come on and talk a little bit about your first experiences with the Galaxy or anything else, let us know. Or if you want to record us a demo, that'd be great too. And that goes for anybody that's listening to this. So I think we'll start wrapping it up here. Let's see here. I don't think I'm missing any messages. We still have 6 people listening. Thank you so much if you are listening. It seems like the YouTube feed has taken off this week. That's really good. If you have any questions for us, please send those along to Anatad Podcast at gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook. Anatad is the Facebook, I believe.
Just search for Anatad on Facebook.
Search for
correct? Yeah.
Anatad. On Twitter, at Anatad Podcast. And we are tweeting a lot of Android and Google and carrier-related tweets and stuff and posting different articles. So if you miss our lovely voices throughout the week, follow us on those places, and you will hopefully be entertained.
And be
And-
informed, of course.
Yep,
remember,
and be informed as well. And yeah, let's see. What else am I missing? If you
Our email.
Yep, you can email us,
Yeah.
anatadpodcast@gmail, with any tutorials that you have for us, any questions that you have. Follow us on YouTube. If you're listening to this, please like the video, share it, subscribe. Our podcast website, anatadpodcast.com, where you can subscribe using your favorite podcatcher, or you can just look at any past podcasts as well. This one will be posted probably in a day or so. They don't get posted right away, but it is live on YouTube, so you're the very first to be listening to this and watching us. And yep, so I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Again, this is Anatad Podcast 46. Today is the Friday, the 7th of August, or Saturday the 8th, depending on where you're at. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, lads, and goodbye from me.
Bye, everybody. See you next week, God willing.